Hey, Sis Omi, how are you today? Good to see you all again. Um, I had a couple of interesting conversations over the last day. Today's a Saturday, and I don't believe in coincidence. I don't believe in sort of random things. I always feel like if things happen or certain conversations, if I run across certain people, things like that, that all of that means something. So that's sort of what inspired me to do this video today. And I wanted to talk about using your tools and the idea of shadow work, which is something that's become a little bit of a buzzword. But I wanted to get a little bit into it and talk about it from a certain perspective. So I know that nowadays, we most people know about different forms of spirituality. People are reading a lot more. We have a lot of access to information on a spiritual level and on a metaphysical level that used to be considered the occult, or sort of woo woo, creepy, scary, whatever. Those kinds of things are beginning to come into the forefront of our consciousness, which is a great thing. I mean, it's awesome. It's good for folks to have all this wonderful information that they can use for all these different purposes. It's an awesome thing. Um, but you have to allow the work to work. So you can go to different spiritual folks to get guidance, to get insight. That's a great thing, to check in with what you're doing, with your path, all of that. If you have a specific purpose for dealing with a particular mentor or a particular spiritual system, you're moving toward an initiation process. Awesome. All that stuff is great. But you also have to remember that within those processes, no one can do your work for you. Your elders, your mentors, all those folks are great, awesome. I love helping people where I can. But even with my work, I'm always conscious of the fact that I'm just the vessel. I'm just the messenger. I am the conduit that the divine works through in order to bring about a certain result. Period. End of story. Without the divine um, sanction, so to speak, I wouldn't be doing the work that I do. So it's not even about me. It's just about me keeping myself open enough that I'm able to have these conversations, to help in the ways that I'm able to help, and things like that. So that's the big thing. Know that whomever you're dealing with is basically going to be what a friend and I called sort of a midwife to your process. We're out of the age where only the priest could read, or you had to go through the preacher to interpret the Bible for you, because again, a lot of folks didn't have access to reading, to language, to things of that nature. It was like, so there always had to be an interpreter. There always had to be someone there to translate the written word that a lot of people couldn't understand. That's not the case anymore. For the most part, I mean, reading, we have literacy statistics and things like that. I get that. But for the most part, the ability to read and understand and comprehend what one is reading is a generally humanly available skill at this point in human history. So, we don't need those intercessors in the same ways that we needed them 200, 300, 400 years ago. So now people who do this kind of spiritual work are basically, like I said, midwives. We're helping to usher in a process. But a woman's going to have the baby when it's time to have the baby, whether the midwife or the doula or the doctor or whoever is there or not. That's why babies are born in trains and planes and cars and whatever. Once that process starts, it's going to finish one way or another. So all we're doing is sort of helping to guide and tell you when to push, and and catch the baby. So we assist the process, but we are not the process. And you have to choose to allow um, the elder or the mentor or whomever, whatever conduit, whatever vessel you're choosing to use, you have to choose to allow that into your life so that you can receive that blessing. So that's an important distinction to have and to make. So use your tools, to get through what's going on. And that's another thing. If you don't have those tools, then that's when the therapists and the healers and the spiritual elders and all of that comes in. If there's certain things that you need to get, that's an important thing. So what are some of the things that you can do to kind of jumpstart yourself? One big thing is meditation. Now, when I say meditation personally, I'm not necessarily specifically talking about just sitting and doing this thing and with the om and the total silence and all of that. It doesn't have to be that way. Meditation can be active. So you can sit or you can walk. You can walk. There's a whole school of walking meditation. So you deliberately take your steps. You're thinking about it each step of the way. Things like that. For me, the definition of meditation, honestly, is whatever allows you to be receptive and open enough to listen to either your own inner divine guidance or divine guidance from the God of your understanding. So that could be walking. Some people get that through yoga practice. Some people get that through jogging, running, some other form of physical exercise. Whatever it is that does it for you, that gets you open enough to listen and hear what spirit is saying to you. That, in my book, is meditation. So don't feel like you have to sit and clear your mind all the time, because it may not look like that for you. Some people, even if they do sit and use sitting meditation, it's very helpful for them to use specific tones. There's a ton of stuff on YouTube. If you look up sound healing or tonal healing or whatever on YouTube, you'll find out all this stuff about, this megahertz heals this, or this frequency heals that. I'm not an expert on that. I don't know what to tell you about whether or not it actually works, but some people are very musically attuned, and they're very attuned to sound. So, you can use that. They have tones for different chakras and things like that. It may help you to have a screen full of a certain color while you're meditating, so that you can gaze at the screen. So, like, if you're working on your root chakra, you may need to gaze at a screen that's sort of burgundy or red, or some shade of black or gray. If you're working on your heart, you may do the pink or the green, something like that, whatever it is. But there are tons of ways to meditate. And so don't feel like it has to be, oh, I have to be able to sit quietly in a room by myself for 5 minutes. That may not be what works for you. It may be that you walk around the block and touch a tree and commune with nature for that 5 minutes or that 10 minutes. So don't get caught up in that meditation box. That may not work. Journaling is a huge thing, and again, this is not a huge thing. You're not writing Moby Dick. You don't have to worry about that. When I say journaling, what I really mean is, you're getting it out of your head and onto paper. You're getting it out of you, and what was the word I want to use? You're making it concrete in another way. So this could be letters that you write and you don't send. If you're in a space where you feel like you can't keep things, like you can't keep what you're journaling, hey, write it out, rip it up, burn it, do whatever you need to do. But type it out, delete it, that kind of thing. You can make like a little Word file or something on Google Drive, or whatever you use, and just write it out, select it all, delete it all, however you do it. But the act of actually writing, or just seeing your thoughts in front of you on a screen or on paper or something like that, really does help to make space in your consciousness for other things to come through. If you're holding on to all of this, you're going to have a problem getting in the new, fresh things that need to breeze through in order to give you the insights that you need. So that's really important. And as far as the whole, shadow work buzzwordy thing, shadow work is great. I have absolutely no problem with it. It's awesome. You can go to a workshop, do all that stuff if you want to. That's great. But life itself will eventually throw you into something, whether you want to call it shadow work, whether you want to call it the dark night of the soul, which is often used. Sometimes you'll hear about, especially in goddessy or witchy circles, you'll hear the underworld journey, especially for women or womb having people. The underworld journey is a big thing. So all of those terms kind of coalesce into the same idea. And what that is that, pain is going to, life brings pain, life brings challenges. That's just pretty much what it is. Not too many of us get through life without something. Some people get more than others. Some people are in just environments that are traumatic. When you think about things like child soldiers, something like that, it's just this very extreme situation. Some people have one toxic family member that they've had to deal with their entire lives. Whatever it is, pain comes with life. If you live long enough, you're going to lose people you love. If you live into your 50s, 60s, more than likely you're going to see the loss of your parent. Some people lose their children, which is, horrible, but it happens, so we all get something. And when we're scarred by life, when things hurt us, we have a choice, and we can stay stuck where we are, or we can learn whatever that pain has come to teach us. That can take days, that can take weeks, or it can take years. There is no time limit on this kind of work. There is no, it comes when it comes and it leaves when it leaves. You can't really speed it up. You can't really slow it down. You are not in control of this work a lot of times. A lot of times when we think about work on the lighter side of things, we can kind of not totally control it, but we can navigate that process. Uh, when it's shadowy type stuff, when darkness comes in, you're not controlling that. You don't control grief. Grief comes when it comes and it leaves when it leaves. You don't necessarily control that. We can't erase on another angle. I don't believe in erasing your negativity. I don't believe in erasing your vices, so to speak. If they come to rule your life, we're talking on the level of sobriety and things like that. That's kind of another level. But just in a general sense, if you have little habits and little things that you do or whatever, you're not necessarily going to get rid of those things. What you need to do is figure out where they come from and heal them. Some people will say, find out where they come from, show them love, give them, love those parts of yourself. For instance, okay, if you're a really sarcastic person, if you're just one of these people who, people say things or whatever, they don't make sense to you, and your response is to just be really kind of snarky and sarcastic, that's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and that's cool. However, there's a lot of, there's humor in that. Humor is very cool and healing. There's also an intelligence in that. The fact that you can take something and kind of pick it apart that way, that's a sign of a certain level of intelligence and wit. So there are good things in there. But what you have to understand and realize is that everything doesn't require that kind of a response. And if you're like defending, if you're fighting all the time, if your response to something is to kind of put your guard up, then that's what you need to pay attention to. And it's like, why do I feel like I'm fighting life all the time? So you may not totally get rid of that sarcasm, and it may even be a good thing on some levels. But you need to use it to your advantage. Like, you don't want to push people away with it. Even you just want to, love it as a part of you, but understand where it's inappropriate, where it may be hurtful, and where you may need to rein it in a little bit. Just in the sense of dealing with your stuff, that kind of thing. That's one example. But, there's always light in the dark, dark in the light. I mean, that's just universal law. So you're not going to get rid of your darkness. What you need to do is embrace it. And once you're able to do that, if you can get through these dark nights, if you can get through the struggle, if you can get through the pain, the grief, the anguish, the loss of whatever it is you're going through, let me tell you, whatever you get out of that will be something that you will never lose. It will be something that will be imprinted on your soul that no one is going to be able to take from you. Okay? And that's the point of it. That's the point of doing that work or having those experiences, because at some point the universe is like, hey, you know what? You're going to need this resilience. You're going to need this faith. You're going to need this strength. You're going to need to prioritize your life. For anyone who's lost someone important to them, several people important to you, how that prioritizes your life, how you stop wasting time on relationships and people and things that don't matter because you've realized the preciousness and the shortness of life. And you understand, like, hey, why am I wasting my time doing XYZ, or why am I wasting my time just sitting here when I could be da 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 da? Because grief is an organizer like no other. Okay, it just is. I mean, that's part of the lesson that it teaches. And so when you get to that point, it's like, I am not wasting my time. That's a gift. That's a huge gift, and it's one of those things you don't lose because you've earned it. You've really earned it, and you know how you feel after a long hard day at work, or after you finish a big project or something like that. All of that stuff. I mean, it's that same thing. It's just on a spiritual level. So that stuff stays in your heart, and it stays in your spirit, and it stays in your soul, and that's the point. That's the point. So I also we're coming up on 15, 16 minutes. And I don't like to keep y'all too long. But hopefully it's been interesting enough that y'all have stayed with me to this point. Because I do want to share with you some resources and some things that have helped me along the way and helped a lot of other folks along the way, that you can use on your journey. So one of the things that I really like, one of the resources that I'm really a fan of, is this Iyanla Vanzant book, One Day My Soul Just Opened Up. Now, I know some of y'all have a little thing about Iyanla. I really think that show should not be called so much Fix Your Life as, Iyanla walked me to the door of my healing. But that's a whole nother story. All whatever's aside, this book will take you through it. It will really illuminate what's going on with you, and also how you can maneuver through some of life's stuff that we all tend to go through on some level. So it's a 40-day, I believe it's a 40-day process. So it's a really good compliment if you're already doing something that's going to last for about a month or about 40 days. It's a great compliment to that kind of work, if you want to go there. Another great book that an elder of mine introduced me to is Romancing the Shadow, and the subtitle, A Guide to Soul Work for a Vital, Authentic Life. And this is by Connie Zweig and Steve Wolf. Now this one, for some of y'all, you may be a little because they do rely heavily on the whole Greek and Roman mythology thing, to like the allegories and the mythology and stuff like that, to deal with that. But the information is on point. And what they do is they take you through a whole process of how to deal with your personal shadow. It's pretty dense. It is, I'm looking now, 9 chapters. With and the chapters are not necessarily short. I mean, you can see this isn't a short book, and the type is kind of small, so they get into it. But it's not a difficult read. I mean, if you just want to just read it through one time, it's a really easy read. So culturally, you may have a little about it. That's fine. But it does definitely give you a really, really good framework for working through the dark and icky, messy parts of your being. It's a great thing for that. Now, if you want to get kind of more, cultural with it and things like that, you can sort of, if you want to use this along with the shadowy stuff, this is Opening to Spirit. What is this? Contacting the healing power of the chakras and honoring African spirituality. So what this sister does, and a lot of y'all probably have this book. This has probably been on just about every bookshelf and everybody's like metaphysical, whatever. Anybody with that kind of mindset probably has this book already. But in case it's new to you, and you can see I still have all my little tabs and stuff in it. But this book goes through the chakras, and it deals with it from both the traditional Sanskrit or Hindu or Indian perspective, but she also layers on some stuff from from different African traditions, in particular the Orisha tradition from the Yoruba people. So this is a great way to work through your chakras. So if you want to sort of have something with a more cultural um, perspective, but also, deal with your energy centers, Opening the Spirit is a great book for that. And it's still widely available as far as I know. Half.com is your friend if something is out of print or something like that. But Opening the Spirit, I believe, is still in print, and it's been around for quite some time. So that's a good book. And finally, The Four Agreements. This is another one that has been around for a while. I think Oprah has probably dealt with it on Super Soul Sunday once or twice or something like that. But this is definitely another good book to use and think about. One thing about this, people have, as with anything else, people will twist something for their own purposes and their own needs. And this book has gotten a little bit of a bad rap because of some of the ways that people have interpreted how to use the agreements. However, when you get into the book, or if you just Google the Four Agreements, you'll get a list of the Four Agreements, all these graphics, beautiful graphics of the Four Agreements, with the little blurbs about kind of a little summaries of what they mean. And the first one is be impeccable with your word. So the issue with sort of twisting the book or the agreements in the book to fit your own sort of I can be a butthead, nobody can check me kind of attitude is that, okay, well, are you being impeccable with your word? That's the thing. If you're saying what you mean and meaning what you say, then you don't have to worry about people thinking you're butthead behavior, or having to justify it by using some of the other agreements. Like, that's totally not the point. Anybody using it in that way has not actually read the book. And the other thing I like about the Four Agreements, again, as you can see, this one is very thin. I mean, barring like the introduction or whatever, you could read this in an afternoon. So, I mean, if you went and picked this up at Barnes and Noble's like now, you could finish it by like 6 o'clock. Just a basic like run through. It's a very, very easy read, but it's one of those deceptively easy books. It's one of those things where you'll pick it up, you'll read it through, and then it'll be like, and you'll have a few, little aha moments, and you'll want to go back and, read it again, or go and study more on different agreements and things like that. Now they have, I think, something called the Fifth Agreement, and their editions that actually come with workbooks and things like that. You can work through it in a group, all of that. So that's, you can take it as far or as, keep it as simple or make it as elaborate as you want, as far as that. So this is an over 20-minute video, and y'all know I try to keep it relatively short when I can, but I felt like that was important enough to share with you all. As always, I will have links to where you can find me online in the description of the video. I also have some blog posts that are relevant to this material, and so I'm going to put those in the description as well. So if you're interested, you can in reading more and hearing more about my journey in the process, or rather not even hearing more about my journey, but just understanding that, I'm sitting here on YouTube and doing this because Spirit said, but I'm human and I go through my processes just like anybody else. And that's why I do write and blog the way that I do, because I think it's very important to, on some level, like they used to tell you in math class, to show your work. Because I never want anyone to look at me and think, oh, she hasn't been there. I may not have had the specific experience that you've had. That's totally possible. But I never want to make it look like, oh, this was just some easy thing and I just woke up like this, and I knew all this stuff. I've had to go through life and go through my challenges just like everybody else. So I like to talk about that on some level, not really put all my business out there, but I do like to share that just so people know that, you can get through it. You can get to the other side, and that there are lessons that you need to learn that can be helpful for somebody else if you choose to share that, or that will help you to manifest your highest and greatest destiny. So that is it. As I said, this is a Saturday. It's actually December 19th, so we're coming up on the winter solstice. It's almost Christmas time, and then we have Kwanzaa after that, and then into the New Year. So, or what is considered the New Year here. So, whatever you're doing, whoever you are spending this time with, I hope that you have a wonderful holiday season, and I will talk to y'all soon. All right, take care. Peace.